to Leg. Leg with a shot. Oh, it must score. Oh, Bray. Oh, it's in. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't.
The tropical storm spoiled some of the Monday fun, but match week 8 still had some great goals and some great action. Here's our review of it all. We will start with what people are already calling one of the matches of the season, as Tivoli was taking on Cavaliers. Now Tivoli came into the game trying to find some spark in their attack and made some changes up front, as Anthony Nels will lead the line in space of Justin Dunn, and the likes of Kevin Garnett and Kemar Shah were in the team. While Cavalier, obviously fresh off of their big 7-0 win in the midweek in the Caribbean Cup, made several changes to give some fresh legs. The dangerous three were out, and in was the likes of Orlando Russell, Chad James, as well as Kowain Thompson. Adrian Reed was also back in the team, and funny enough, Kylie Aubrey kept his spot. When the game kicked off, it was a bit of equal proceedings. Both teams were have moments on the ball and trying to go forward, but both teams at times just never really mustered any great chances on target. Something was a little bit off by Cavalier, of course, though. Yes, we understand making 4 changes can cause such a thing, but they just never seem their usual selves. And by the 30th minute, Tivoli started to take advantage of that. Tivoli started to create more and more chances, and some of them you even wonder how any man should go in. So Tivoli was definitely in the ascendancy by the time they finally got the opening goal. Some good work down the left-hand side from Fuller, and he traded his shooting boots for his passing boots and unlocked a good ball to Nelson down the left-hand channel, who was able to tuck it past Jadine White and into the back of the goal. It was coming, but it was a good goal by Tivoli nonetheless, and something they can definitely build on, as this performance was one of the best they have done so far. And it didn't stop there. They keep coming at Cavalier, who, as I said to you, they won't look their usual selves, so a lot of their counters just never managed to produce nothing. And Tivoli should have even get the second here when Nelson would have been one of the goals of the season, managed to hit the post, and again Cavalier escaped for safety. Halftime whistle blew, and it was Tivoli in the ascendancy. But Ruder Speed sounded the alarm at halftime and brought on the dangerous three, as Busy Atkinson came on along with Calvin as well as Stein. And they looked much like the usual selves in the second half. They were no more taking the fight to Tivoli, but you could say that just in the final third, they were a bit rushing their play a bit and still couldn't really muster any real danger at the Tivoli goal. Credit to Tivoli on the other hand, they still went attacking and was trying their best to find the second. They thought they did here, but a foul was called on the keeper. But you would think that with the way they're playing, they were most likely going to find a second soon. But Speed make a smart tactical switch, I feel. They put Avery centrally, and he was now finding good balls to both Calvin and Atkinson on the run. One of them found Atkinson in behind here, and he calmed himself down just enough to cut back and play a ball into a streaking Stein, who was able to stuck the wave and give Cavalier 1-all equalizer. For all the good play Tivoli was doing, you have to wonder maybe they were a bit too confident and left the backline a bit too bare. As you can see on the counter, there's basically 3 white shirts to 1. But this is where the game got exhilarating. Both teams were definitely going for the winner, which left the game stretched on both ends of the park, and there was counter after counter. Tivoli went here and just tried their best, while Cavalier went here and tried their best. But both came up a bit short. But then Tivoli probably came the closest to find the winner when Fuller got the ball here and did well to come back on his right and tried to give Jadine White the snake eyes and cut it back to his near post, but it was a brilliant save by White, kept the ball out and keep his team in it. It's one of the greatest saves of the season we have seen so far, and it was just what Cavalier needed. Because on the other end, Cavalier was sprung again by our next ball from Aubrey, and when the ball is placed in the 6-yard box, it could look like a carbon copy of their first goal, but this time Bryce got back in time and got a touch on the ball and saved Tivoli blushes. So from there, the back and forth battle finally ended, and our match finished probably a deserved 1-all draw. So a great entertaining match in the end, but how was it in terms of numbers? So Tivoli had 8 total shots in that game compared to only 4 from Cavalier. Tivoli had 2 on target, while Cavalier managed to have 4 on target, as the danger tree provided more oomph in attack in the second half. 8 corners to Tivoli to 4 to Cavalier, 3 yellow cards to Tivoli, and only 1 yellow card to Cavalier in the game. But yeah, based on those numbers, you would think that Tivoli struggled to get their point, but honestly, I feel that they, along with Joe Waite, would probably feel more aggrieved with the point. I thought they were the better team for majority of the game, especially in that first half, and probably hurt themselves for that Cavalier equalizer. But they should feel proud, because this is by far the best game of the season, and they can hopefully build on it to get their season on track. While Cavalier, it's clear that they have a bit of a hangover from their semi-final in the midweek, and the changes to the lineup never helped them muster much. And even in the second half with all their dangerous guns, they seem a little bit off, but they are the champions for a reason and they managed to dig out a result here. So once again, it finishes Tivoli 1, Cavalier 1. So that game was the second part of a double-header at Stadium East. I have to talk about the first one right before it. It was Harveyview was playing host to Racing United. Harveyview has been struggling with goals lately and made a bold move by starting veteran Andre Fagan once more, but this time there was no Acosta Chung in the entire squad. Also, we saw Godstone in that midfield, a start for Remora Gibbs, and then a bigger move, Romara Palmer lost his spot in the goalkeeper position. As for Racing, the main two moves that happened here, Rodney Murray kept his spot in the attack, and Ronaldo Big start from the beginning this time after coming as a second half substitute in the game against Veer. But as the game kicked off, Harveyview actually took the lead very early. Within almost in the second minute, Andre Fagan found himself behind the back line with ease, and then with only the keeper to beat, he loved him, and the ball went into the goal. Just like that, Harvey was leading, and I must say that's one of the worst defending I've seen in a long while, and Racing gave up a very easy goal. They did try to settle after that and try to play their usual style, and as I said to you in the previous show, Ronaldo Big seemed like the only one likely to get them anything going forward. He tried his best here, but again, it didn't really muster much. And Harvey was definitely looking more sharper and hungrier on the ball. But even so, I just never expect their second goal to be also so easy. Another ball was flinged to the left hand side, and it's looked at number 22 as well as number 3 in this process. An easy ball was floated back in the 6-yard box, and Fagan with ease was able to, by a deflection, get the ball past Obza into the goal. It seemed that this goal happened in slow motion as the Racing defenders really just lacked any effort to necessarily try to block the cross or even mark Fagan in the box. It is a straight contrast to how Racing has endured themselves to JPL fans so far this season, as they are always full and hot, but it was definitely lacking here. So just like that, with great ease, Harveyviews are the leading 2-0. But no, we're used to Racing having spirited comebacks, but for the rest of that first half, they didn't really even try to muster much. Again, Biggs would try his best on that left hand side, but most of the crosses just simply found nobody in the box. And then when he decided to give up on that, he would see we cut in a lot more essentially, but again, he couldn't muster much on goal. And just like that, Harveyview just basically eased themselves to a 2-0 lead at the half. Second half though, just like we saw with Veer, Racing came out a much better team. They were definitely pushing the game. No, I was not controlling much of the ball. Although you could argue Harveyview were quite content to sit back and see what they were up to, but Racing was definitely coming at Harveyview, but again, they wasn't getting much shot on target. But they did make a tactical switch. They put Ellis much closer in a more traditional number 10 role to partner the attackers up front, and within the 70th minute, it played dividend. It was pivotal here to slip the ball in behind for Molynes, who pulled the ball back across 6-yard box, and while Priestley looked like he was basically all alone, he was not to know that, I guess, and he tried to blast the ball out for safety, but unfortunately it went in his own goal. 2-1, and Racing could feel that they were back in the game. But at that point, they were definitely going for the equalizer and leaving themselves a bit stretched at the back, and Harvey was now taking full advantage. For the first, in the second half, they were getting more spaces at the back line to get their shots off, and eventually, thanks to this Demaro's ball that was floating in behind that empty space, Holmes had to come out and brought down McKenzie into the box. Surprise, surprise, another penalty for Harveyview, and this time there was no Chung, so Rowan Brown in the 90th minute came up and took it and basically sealed the victory for Harveyview. And not long after that, the whistle blew and gave the Stars of the East another victory in the league. So it almost felt too easy for Harveyview, but let's just see what the stats have to say about the game. Harveyview actually ended up with 13 total shots compared to only 6 for Racing. 6 of those shots were on target for Harveyview and only 3 for Racing. 3 corners to Harveyview, 6 to Racing as they pushed for this in the second half. 2 yellow cards to Harveyview, 3 to Racing, and no red cards. So yeah, I have to give credit to this victory to Buja Henry a bit. He made some bold changes to that starting 11 and it seemed that all of it worked out. The new goalkeeper seemed fine despite some nervous handling of the ball in the box, and Andre Fagan gave them the goals that they needed. It was also good to see Demaro was back in the team and he showed what he can do. While Racing, I don't know what happened to them in this game. You can't doubt their talent or quality if you want, but there's one thing you never doubted them, but there's how much heart they normally play with. I don't know why it went missing, especially in that first half, but if they want to stay in the league, they have to show more effort than that. This was a big opportunity miss, and they have to come better next time. Anyway, once again, it finishes Harveyview 3, Racing 1. Alright, to now move all the way to Portmore as Dunbeholden Sports Complex, as Dunbeholden, who seemed to can't lose at home, was now hosting newcomers Chapelton Maroons FC. Dunbeholden starting lineup looked almost the same as what they had in the midweek. Romain Hamilton, after his exploits, kept his spot over Hyatt, and once again Neon Burrow will lead the line. As for Chapelton, the only main difference here is of course that William Fair kept his spot in goal despite the return from suspension of Prince Daniel Smith. I should also mention that Coach Bigger Thompson kept Javel Ellis alongside Leon Williams up front. Now, in the last week, Dunbeholden managed to have back-to-back wins at home, and of course they will be surging with confidence. They started the game as such, they were more on the front foot to start the game, and even carved out a decent chance in the early beginnings. But eventually Chapelton found their usual passing style come more into the game, and they got control more of the ball. They controlled possession and even eked out 1 and 2 clear chances that even saw one of them get cleared off the line. This is not to say that Dunbeholden was pinned in their own box. They still managed to go up the other side of the field and carve up some chances of their own, but nothing was going in for either team. Almost looked like it could play out into a 0-0 for the first half, until in the 43rd minute when a Dunbeholden player was streaking in and was tumbled over into the box. Penalty given, and this time it was Ricardo Thomas who stood up to take the penalty, and he was into the back of the net. 1-0 by Dunbeholden, and their fans were going mad. Chapelton probably felt they were sucker punched in the face after controlling so much of the ball, and they were probably hoping to come into the second half, probably to do the same and get back into it. But I felt Dunbeholden did a much better job of keeping possession in the second half and keeping the attack going, and probably were looking like the most likely team to find the second in the match. It didn't necessarily materialize in the second half. They tried their best, but couldn't get nothing else past Ferreira. Chapelton have very few half chance, and they're trying their best to counter after the waves of attack from Dunbeholden, as them themselves really couldn't get anything on target. But Dunbeholden will finally kill the game off for good in the 98th minute. A cross-field pass for one, and Nicole Wright that got past his fullback, and on the chest he was able to dribble into the box before coolly putting it on his right to give Dunbeholden the late 2-0 lead. It was the second goal in 1 week for Wright, and this time it will give Dunbeholden the lead for good. The whistle blew not long after that, and Chapelton lost again, and Dunbeholden win again to 2-0. Alright guys, let's look at the stats for this one real quick. Dunbeholden had 11 total shots in that game, but as I said to you, Chapelton never played so badly. They had 13 total shots in return. Dunbeholden had 5 shots on target compared to 3 from Chapelton. 4 for corners for Dunbeholden, 5 for Chapelton. 3 yellow cards for Dunbeholden, 1 for Chapelton, and no red cards in the game. Bigger Thompson at the end of this game said he felt a bit aggrieved by the result. He felt that they were the better team and felt that his senior players should have done better to avoid such simple mistakes. Honestly, on the run of the play, they could say they deserve at least a point out of the game, but they got to finish those chances, as well as reduce some of those mistakes. While Dunbeholden are showing that they are just the only team that know to play on this smaller field, and they're just a force to be reckoned with at home. Too bad they can't play here every week, but once they do, they show that you have to bring your A game to really get 3 points out of here. Another good performance from them, and even better, they got a clean sheet this time. So once again, it finishes Dunbeholden 2, Chapelton 0. We're staying in Portmore for this one as we go a bit up the road to Fernita Park, as Portmore United is hosting the struggling Molynes United. In terms of the lineup, Portmore was basically unchanged after the impressive trip to Mobile last week. That meant that Stephen Barnett kept his spot up front to partner Junior Grizzle. We should also mention there's no Zane Pinnock in the starting team or in the full squad, as he picked up an injury in training in the midweek. As for Molynes United, they are searching for a starting 11 that can get them some fortunes going forward, but they would have to do without the captain, as Jason Wright again missed out in the starting 11. But honestly, it's not much here to review or analyze for you guys, as from kickoff, it was all Portmore United. From the jump, they were definitely all over Molynes, and this game could have ended up way more than the final result showed. Portmore was relentless on the attack and even picked up a penalty in the early proceedings, but thanks to encroachment in the box, they had to wave off the penalty and Molynes escaped at that time. But it never lasted long. Junior Grizzle got a good ball here at the top of the D. His right foot shot managed to find the lower corner, and it was 1-0 Portmore. Another goal for the youngster, who is proven to be one of the finds of the season so far. You could say that Portmore were a bit unlucky to not even stretch a lead in that first half, as it ended 1-0. But the second half, their attack kept coming, and it was just all Portmore again. This time they finally got the second in the 65th minute by Javier Brown, who is also proving to be one of the buyers of the season, while Romero Gucci good form continued as he picked up the third for Portmore in the 77th minute. Poor Molynes were put out the misery in the 84th by Omar Reed, who came on and scored the fourth for Portmore, and basically it was not much more to read into this game. It was simply all red, white and blue, while Molynes was black and blue all over, and the game ended 4-0. So a dominant performance by Portmore at home, they see if the numbers reflect that. They had 14 total shots in this game compared to only 6 by Molynes. Portmore managed to have 8 on target, while 3 by Molynes somehow found its way to sneak in. 1 corner for Portmore, 4 to Molynes, and they had 1 spell of pressure in the second half. 2 yellow cards for Portmore, 3 for Molynes, and no red card in the game. After the Montego Bay game, Austin did promise that his team would be on a full attack for their next match, and he was a man of his word. They were absolutely relentless and probably should feel in a way that didn't score more than 4. While Molynes, well, it's not looking like a promising season for them. The defense was always an issue, but now this is the 3rd game in a row they failed to score. Things are looking bleak and they have to fix something real soon. But anyway, once again, it finishes Portmore 4, Molynes United 0. We move on to our final game of match week 8, and it's a game we don't really have much information on, as there were no video or pictures of the match really. We only got on the grounds report, so I'll try my best. In terms of starting lineup, Molynes made some changes. Kaim Bryan was back into the starting 11, and Claire Clark, despite his first half substitute last time out, was back in the starting 11. While Arnett saw the return of Jamon Shepherd back in that midfield to partner Jaheim Thomas, Odell Brown got another chance at fullback, and Warner Brown was once again leading the line with Shea Smith and Kimani Arbine flanking him. Again, there was no sign of Fabian Reed in the team. But according to reports, when the game kicked off, Molynes kind of started more on the front foot, and I had a little still of pressure, especially from some corners, but eventually Arnett got more of the ball and started to settle down. From there, the majority of the first half was all the Junglists as they controlled most of the proceedings. Of course, it led to the first goal as Arnett snatched the lead with Warner Brown in the 25th minute, but their pressure didn't end there, and eventually the dam broke again, and they got their second, this time through Shea Smith in the 33rd minute to give Arnett a 2-0 lead. They kept that into the half, but the second half, Molynes was much more hunger to get back into the game. Especially at the 68th minute, where Arnett had to face a barrage of corners as Molynes was definitely pressing to get back one into the game, but Arnett survived. Molynes kept coming at them with waves and waves of pressure and waves of corners, but Arnett's defense held firm, and it seemed that they was going to escape the clean sheet. But that changed in the 98th minute as a feeble Chambers brought one back for Molynes, and with some time on the clock to give them some hope to find an unlikely equalizer, and despite them pressing for it, they didn't manage to pull it off. The game will eventually be called to a halt, and Arnett escaped Clarendon with a 2-1 victory. In terms of stats, we have possession. Arnett had 57 possession compared to 43 from Molynes, but you will see here in terms of total shots that Molynes fought as hard as they could in the second half. They had 19 total shots compared to the 20 by Arnett, as both teams had their moments of distilled pressure in the game. Molynes managed 4 shots on target from that 19, while Arnett only managed 5 from their 20 on target. Molynes had 6 corners. As I said to you, they were definitely going for it, and Arnett had 1 corner in return. 1 yellow card to Molynes, 2 to Arnett, and no red cards. Yeah, you could say Molynes lost that game based on their performance in the first half, especially in how they responded after the opening goal by Arnett to allow Shea Smith to get the second so closely right after, basically doomed the result for them. But you have to give them credit, they came out swinging in the second half and always brought the game back, so that's a form of encouragement for them. While Arnett, they needed this win badly to take off the pressure off themselves as well as their coach Xavier Gilbert, but they probably felt the game was too close for comfort in that second half when Molynes came at them. But an away victory tastes sweet nonetheless, and they will savor it all. 3 points for them and they will look forward. So once again, the game finishes Molynes 1, Arnegans 2. So again, with Monday night being postponed, that doesn't leave us too straight to the table, of course. And we have a new leader up top. That's Portmore United now leading the way with 16 points from their 8 matches played. Idle Montego Bay stays second with 14th. Idle Waterhouse stays third with 14th. And Mount Pleasant, who did not play either, run up the top 4. As for the end of the table, as a big points for Dunbeholden as their 3 games winning streak saw them move all the way up the table from last to 8th on 9 points. Veer slipped to 9th, of course, on 8 points. And the final 3 though see Tivoli at 12 with 6 points. Racing in 13th with 5, and lowly Molynes now takes up the spot at the basement with 4 points. But alright guys, this is all from match week 8. Again, it's a shame we didn't get to see the Monday games because those were promising to be some big ones. But of course, we all wish y'all to stay safe in this bad weather, and I hope we all make it to see a nice match week 9. But for now, this is all from us here at Jamaica Fun. Again, please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date on every match week leading up to the final. Otherwise, for great JPL content, you're already at the right place. Jamaica Fun. YouTube, pick up yourself.